You can feel overwhelmed, you can feel like you're failing, you can feel frustrated, and you can still become wildly successful. Success is a series of decisions that we make, and we're going to mess up and fail along the way with all those decisions. What sometimes feels like a failure is actually our biggest blessing. We're not getting it wrong, we're just learning how to get it right. And I think for me, that frame of mind has helped me so much. The topic that I wanted to talk about today was when you feel like you're failing or when you feel like you're being rejected. Because for me, this has been a big thing, and I think it's something that gets in our way, holds us back. How many of you here feel like you're failing or feel like you're afraid to be rejected or you've been rejected and it feels really frustrating and it's hard? So many of us. In fact, something that I've said in the past is, you can feel overwhelmed, you can feel like you're failing, you can feel frustrated, and you can still become wildly successful. You can be wildly successful and still feel all those things. I know for me, I feel like I'm failing so often. I feel like I'm making mistakes all the time, and it can feel frustrating. And I remember at the beginning of my journey, it was really difficult to find my way through those feelings because I thought there was something wrong with me. Felt like maybe I just wasn't cut out to be successful. And it was really hard dealing with that discomfort and those emotions. And the longer I've been in business, the more I've realized that they are always there. And I think it's part of becoming a successful person is that we mostly find our way to success through getting it wrong. It's the wrong things that actually show us the way and help us to find the right things. I don't think I've ever once just landed on the right thing and it's just all perfectly worked out for me. I don't think that's ever happened a single time. And when I started the Female Entrepreneur Association, I had this quote on my wall that said, "Successful people hang on when everyone else has let go." And I would look at that quote and I'd be like, "Carrie, just keep hanging on. Just keep hanging on." And I was like, I'm not the most talented person. I'm definitely not the cleverest person. I definitely don't have it all figured out. But what I can do is I can keep hanging on, and I keep just taking tiny little steps to try and figure out. And that is what I have done. So I thought it might be good for me to share with you some of my struggles and failures. One, in the hope that we just normalize it, but two, also because maybe it'll make you feel better about yourself. And maybe it'll make you be like, take a breath and you'll be like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like I'm not failing. Like I'm on my journey to doing these amazing things. And this is just part of it. And so, I started thinking about all my little stories of where I feel like I've failed or I've messed up. And then I also obviously dug out my journal because I'm like, this thing is crammed full of my tears and my mistakes and my failures and my feeling like I'm totally failing. So I was like, this will be a good place to start. And so I literally dug it out earlier, and I had some little markers in here from like a workshop I must have done ages ago. And I was like, oh, I wonder what these say. Mostly about failures and rejection. The first one actually, I think, was about that feeling of rejection. I literally wrote, the past week I felt a bit crappy about everything. I met with a couple of people and I don't really think they got FEA. They didn't understand how it works and why I'm doing it. And then I think I said, having faith and keeping the belief alive is definitely challenging, especially with so many people asking, how's it going to make money? When are you going to go and get a proper job? It's easy to be knocked off course. In those moments when you feel like hope is gone, that you're crazy, remember that life is for doing crazy things and for taking risks. And don't be scared be the superhero inside of you, be bold and have courage and always believe. Reread when feeling lost and down. I wrote that to myself on the 13th of October 2011, which was in the very, very early days of building the Female Entrepreneur Association. And I feel like over the years, I've encountered a lot of people who haven't really got what I'm doing. And that feeling of rejection is a real tough one because it makes you question yourself. When you've got other people around you questioning you, think, oh my God, I don't need you questioning me. I'm already questioning myself enough. And it's so difficult. I remember, I think I wrote this in my book. I remember when I launched a magazine in 2012, and I was so excited. I've been working so hard on it. And when I was launching it, I was working from a co-working space in London. And this girl came over that I was introduced to, and we were chatting, and I showed her the magazine. I was literally about to hit send on the email to share it with everyone. And she said, this is so patronizing. It's pink. And I was like, but I like pink. And she didn't get it. And she literally told me that she thought it was patronizing. And it felt like such a rejection. Like I'd put my heart and soul into that thing. And there was a stranger telling me that what I'd created was patronizing. And it's in those little moments where I feel like we have to choose to trust ourselves and our dreams more than listen to the people around us that are doubting us or telling us that we're doing something wrong. And it's so difficult. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that we have to trust ourselves more. Like we have to trust in our dreams more than we trust our fears or anyone else's fears or anyone else's doubts or anyone else's opinions, to be quite honest. The most important person, the voice we need to listen to is our true voice, our own voice. And that has really helped me so much over the years when I've met people who just didn't get me and they didn't get my dreams and my ideas. And I think that's why it's really important why we come together in these groups where we can actually champion each other and support each other genuinely, because we just genuinely want the best for each other, because we know what this crazy journey is like. It's so important. So that was some of my rejection. And then here's another day. I don't know why I don't just get on and do it. I feel crappy for not doing it. And I know I'd feel much better for doing it. It's so silly. That was like, it's there's so much stuff to do. Yeah, I've not done it. It's pure laziness, getting in the mood to just do it. I don't know why I don't just get on and do it. I mean, I feel like that's another episode in itself, but it's also that feeling like we're failing when we don't get ourselves in gear. And I think it's giving ourselves permission. We don't have to be on it all the time. I just think we don't have to be hustling and hustling and hustling. Like that isn't the answer. The answer is listening to ourselves. The answer is trusting ourselves. And if we've got resistance, and I think a better question instead of attacking ourselves is to actually ask, what is going on? Like, why do I actually feel this way? What is it that I am, myself is trying to tell myself, if you know what I mean? Like, what is it that I'm feeling that I've not really figured out what it all means and why I'm resisting. And I think that also giving ourselves some grace. Sometimes I think that we try and be superheroes when we've got like 50 million things going on in our lives. And then you see somebody on Instagram who's like, here's how to make 100 grand in 6 weeks. And we're like, oh my God, like I've not made 100 grand and I've been doing this for 2 years. And then you're like, shit, I'm failing. But we're not failing. And I remember feeling like that. Like one of my other failures was 2 years into building the Female Entrepreneur Association. I ran out of money. And in fact, I think that it is I think it's the last green tab in here. I literally said, I got a call from HSBC today saying I'd gone over my overdraft limit. I'd spent 2,900 and had 1,800 on my credit card. Fuck, I've nearly run out of money. I need to take drastic action to make some money. And I remember like crying tears into this journal because I'd been building FEA for nearly 2 years and I had so many money blocks and I was getting in my way so much. And I felt like a fraud. I felt like I was failing. And it was like such a big mixed bag of emotions. And one of the biggest things that I think is that sometimes what sometimes feels like a failure is actually our biggest blessing. And when I look back on that moment of when I ran out of money, it took for that to happen for me to actually shift my mindset and take it to another level. Because when I ran out of money and that happened, I created a guided visualization for myself on financial abundance. And I started listening to that every day and I started shifting into a new frame of mind and the pathway began to unfold. But actually, I look back now and I think those 2 years of me grafting and creating and trying things, they were all part of my journey that was setting me up for success. Like it was all part of the game plan. And I think sometimes we don't trust enough in the universe or whatever you want to call it. Like we don't trust enough in that and in the journey. And especially when we see things on social media that make us feel like if we're not making money in like really quickly that we are failing, and we're not. And I think it's so important to remember because it's so easy to forget. And, you know, I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Well, this is my take on the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is like you have this idea and then you're so excited and you're so fired up, but then you get going with it and you get overwhelmed, you get confused, and then you're messing up and you're making mistakes or it's not really working and you dip into the valley of despair. And often in the valley of despair is the point at which people give up and they think, oh, this isn't working. I'll try something else, or they do something completely different, or they just forget about their idea completely. And so really, like, we're all kind of going through these dips. The question is, do we make it back up out the other side of the valley of despair, or do we do a U-turn? And I have found in my journey in business that success is largely about being able to make it through the dip of the valley of despair. Like, we all go into the valley of despair, and that for all of us. And it's not a question of will we go there? We will go there, and we will go there over and over and over again. The question is, will we make it up the other side? And the only way that I have ever known to get up the other side is to keep taking teeny tiny little steps in the direction of where we're trying to go, in the direction of our dreams, and really resetting our mindset. Because for me, being successful is not about not having negative thoughts or anything. Like, I have the most amount of negative thoughts. I have the most amount of imposter syndrome. I still feel like a fraud. I still feel like I've got nothing figured out all the time, but I'm constantly making decisions despite that. And I think that is a huge part of us showing up and being successful, is figuring out how do we get to that place. But then also, just what popped into my head in saying that is, in 2009, I created this, it was called Mission to Make $1 Million in 365 Days. And I had the website and I documented my journey. I blogged it. I was trying to make $1 million, obviously, in a year. And I got off to a really bad start on my day 1 entry. And I think by day 66, it was my final entry, and I gave up, and I felt like it was really hard, and I stopped doing it. And as you can imagine, I didn't make $1 million in 365 days. And that is an example of where I didn't stop my journey towards trying to figure out how to live my best life and to be really successful and have a successful business. But that idea did stop. And there are loads of things that have stopped and started over the years. And I don't think they're failures. I think they were stepping stones that were helping me to get to the right place. And I think all of us have these stepping stones in our lives. And this is where I think it comes back to us being able to trust ourselves and trust what feels right for you. Like, it's not like, I certainly would not sit here and say, like, you have to keep going with your idea. That's not the point. I think that the journey is so much bigger than that. And sometimes it is about letting go of something that's not working, because actually there's a bigger picture. And I think it's trusting that, and trusting that everything that's happening is happening for a reason. And it's like, what can we pull from it and what can we learn from it? And I think when we think about it from that perspective, we can't really get it wrong. Everything is a lesson that we are being given. What is the lesson trying to teach us? And what are we pulling from it? And how can we use it to move forward? Like, some of the biggest lessons I've had, I mean, which I think so many of you will relate to, is, the first time I did a talk on stage was a disaster. I was talking to 2 groups of year 9 kids. I think they were like 14, 15 or something. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I needed to prepare to just talk about my story. I thought I'd just show up and share my story. No. I showed up very quickly, got so nervous that my mouth went so dry I couldn't even speak. So couldn't get my words out. Stopped to try and take a sip of water, by which point the kids at the back of the classroom were laughing at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on the ground to swallow me up now. And it felt like such a failure at the time. I felt awful. I was like, never again, never again. And then I realized, actually, what do I need to do better next time? And I was like, I am never, ever doing a talk unprepared ever again. Like, I am going to be so prepared. And it was having that first experience, which was like so awful, that prepared me then for a couple of years later doing a TEDx talk and talking about fear and failure and worrying about fear of failure. I nearly said no to the TEDx talk, even though it was on my dream board, because I was so afraid that I was going to fail and mess up. Like, I was petrified. There was a person with me backstage before I went on, and they were like, "You okay?" And I was like, yeah, because I was so terrified. Like, I was so scared. And so I feel like we're always contending with fear, whether it's that we don't make decisions because we're afraid of failing, not fear, but failure, because we're so afraid of failing, or where we actually do fail and we do mess up, and then figuring it out and learning from it. But I don't think we're not getting it wrong. We're just learning how to get it right. And I think for me, that frame of mind has helped me so much. And I think that brings me on to another point that I wanted to talk about when it comes to failure is the word trust. Because for me, that word is one of the most powerful words for all of us, especially when you're going after your dreams and you're trying to do these big, scary things that are pushing you outside of your comfort zone. You don't know whether you're actually going to be able to figure it out. Am I going to make this happen? You know, all these things. And for me, one of my biggest words I have always anchored into is the word trust, because we have to have so much more trust in ourselves and in our dreams so that we keep going despite all the discomfort and the fears and the worries. And this is there's an amazing analogy from Abraham Hicks. I love the Abraham Hicks stuff, but it's this analogy of driving from Phoenix to San Diego. And basically the whole analogy is if you're driving in a car from Phoenix to San Diego, even if you get lost, even if there's traffic works, even if there's a closure, you know 100% that you can get to where you're trying to go. Even if you mess up loads of times along the way because you get lost, you still know you can get to San Diego. And I thought it was such a powerful analogy to recognize our big dreams and our businesses and think about it in the same way. Even though it feels an intangible journey, it's still the same thing. And actually, we're going to mess up and we're going to fail over and over and over again. But if we can just trust that somehow, some way, we're going to figure this out, then we'll keep on going and it will help us to keep on going. And I think for me, that is so powerful and so empowering. And that's where I think we put ourselves in a position where our success becomes inevitable. Because success is a series of decisions that we make, and we're going to mess up and fail along the way with all those decisions. We're never going to just get it perfectly right. But the more we can trust in the journey and the more we can look through that lens, the more we make our success, it becomes inevitable because we just keep going and we keep going, which comes back to the whole thing at the beginning of successful people hang on when everyone else has let go, which my interpretation of that isn't about hustling and hanging on and burning out or anything like that. It's about trusting in yourself and your dreams, the dreams that you want to make happen. It might not be that specific business, but it's the dreams. It's where are you going and what would you be giving up for? And this is where getting to my moment here of my big thing that I really wanted to share is for me, dealing with failure and rejection and setbacks and mistakes and all that stuff that feels so deeply uncomfortable, the biggest thing is the fact that we get one life. And it's so easy to forget in the day-to-day. One life to do everything that we want to do and to achieve everything and to reach our dreams or experience some of those dreams. That's it. And for me, when I zoom out of the day-to-day and I think about the bigger picture, that is what helps me to trust, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we fail. It doesn't matter how many times we mess up. What matters is that we show up for what we feel in our heart and soul is what we really want, what we want to make happen, what we want to experience. That we don't get to a point where we think, oh, it's just not for me. I know I can't be that person that can make that success happen. Or we give up on our dreams. We give up on ourselves. That is sad. That is tragic. Yet so many people get to that point where they give up on themselves. For me, hanging on is about not giving up on ourselves, and it's about trusting ourselves and trusting in our own very unique journeys. And I think it's important to say this and to have this affirmation of this, because with social media and everything, it's so easy to think that people have it all figured out. No one has it all figured out. No one does. I think we're all just playing the game of life, and it's how well are we playing the game? And I think that we play it better when we realize that this is one fun journey and adventure, and we lean into our mistakes and we lean into messing up and we lean into failure. My kids, they're 6 and 4, and we talk all the time about, what did you mess up today? What did you fail? Because I want them to feel comfortable with failing, because failing is a huge part of what it takes to become really, really, really successful. And in my book, She Means Business, I wrote, make friends with discomfort. For a star to be born, there's one thing that must happen. A gaseous nebula must collapse. So collapse, crumble. This is not your destruction. This is your birth. And then I wrote, everyone who is trying to turn their ideas into reality and build a successful business feels discomfort at some stage. We're all pushing ourselves to do things we've never done before. And that causes the resistance to rise up, the fears, the doubts, the worries, and it feels uncomfortable. Just know that this discomfort is not your destruction. It is your birth. It means you are on your way to achieving greatness. And it's true, like so much of this is a sign, those fears, that feeling of like, I don't want to fail. Well, you wouldn't feel like you didn't want to fail if you weren't already on your way to greatness. So I think it's recognizing those signs. So one thing that I do, which is really powerful, that really helps me, that I would love for you to try if it feels good for you, is I want you to write a letter to yourself from your 90-year-old self. What would your 90-year-old self tell you right now? What would she tell you about what's happening? How would she reassure you? What is she going to tell you in terms of like how it's going to work out for you? How do you want it to work out for you? What do you want your 90-year-old self to be telling you? And listen to that, because you already have all that wisdom inside of you. It's there. It's just we're not tapping into it. So I find that when I tap into my 90-year-old self, I can channel her and she can just guide me and tell me the way. She knows already. She knows, and she has a lot of trust because she's been there and done it. And so she's going to tell me it's going to be okay. She's going to let me know that we've got this and we figure it out together. And I know that that's what she's going to tell me. And I don't have to keep beating myself up. And so take a moment to pick up a pen and a piece of paper and write a letter from your 90-year-old self, and just think about, like, what does she want you to know right now? And what would she say about maybe the challenges that you're experiencing today? Or maybe some of the failures you have been experiencing or you feel like you are experiencing. Or if you feel like you are failing right now, it's a very overwhelming feeling of failure, or it keeps like knocking at you. I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm failing. I feel like I'm failing. What would she say to you about that? And it's really powerful because, yeah, we all need that reminder, but we need to kind of hear it from ourselves and we need to trust ourselves. Wow. So that was my 26-minute speaking the truth, which has been really fun. And sorry, I've not even really looked once at the comments, but I hope you've been enjoying this. And I hope that it's been resonating with you and made you, I don't know, maybe it's something that you just needed to hear, and you just wanted a little reminder that we are all here. We're all on this journey together. We're all trying to figure it out together. All of us, every single one of us. I feel like we're walking hand in hand, side by side on this journey towards like following our dreams. And we're messing up and we're getting it wrong, but we're also getting it right. And we're getting it so right because we've got the courage to actually keep walking our walk, which is the most amazing thing we could ever do for ourselves. The one thing that I do know for sure that I want every single one of us to remember is that your dreams are so important. The magic bubbling up inside of you to share is so important, and it needs to be out there and it needs to be heard and it needs to be sprinkled throughout the world. And you're here to do amazing things. Otherwise you wouldn't be here right now. I really, truly believe that we end up hearing things or picking up that book or meeting that person because it was meant to happen. So you're here for a reason. And I think you're here for a reason because you're on to doing amazing things. And the world, the universe, whoever wants you to know that you are here to make this happen and that you are going to make this happen. And so take this as your sign that you're doing incredible things. You are going to make the most amazing things happen, and that you're here for this. Your dreams matter, you matter, and never ever forget that. So if you feel like you're failing, I want you to remember this conversation, and I want you to think, no, it's part of my journey and I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to make friends with discomfort and I'm going to mess up and I'm going to make mistakes, but it's part of my journey to becoming really blooming successful. So I hope you have enjoyed this. I have loved it. I will be back next week. I'd love it as well. If you have any big takeaways from this, let me know. Message me on Instagram at @IamCarrieGreen. I'd really, really love to see. But anyway, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.